Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. This is Audrick Cashmere, and this is an emergency broadcast from the Crystal Network. Alora Vancroft has issued a total evacuation of all farmstead within 5 miles of the Miller Fields. The incursion, and that is the word the Guard is using, is now accelerating. The glowing fog has become a solid wall of white light. Gary and Alara tried casting a sealing sigil and dimensional anchor this morning to stop the bleed, but the magic was simply folded up and handed back to them. That is a direct quote, by the way. Something is trying to force its way into our reality. We don't know if it's an army or a disaster, but the pressure on the fabric of our world is reaching a breaking point. Unfortunately, it is too late to make for the evacuation shelters, so whatever this is, we're going to have to ride it out. Alara is at the site with Gary, trying last-ditch efforts to redirect whatever is coming through at the Miller Farms. Alara's journeyman apprentices are currently working on powering up the town wards in case this is a direct response to the flood from several weeks ago, or possibly something that can be deflected or redirected away from the town by modifying the magics that have been laid down over the past few months. The area around the Fountain Square is being prepared as a temporary shelter. Please, do not look at the light, as it has grown bright enough to cause blindness, and our citizens capable of curing that are currently otherwise occupied. Lacking anything better to do at the moment, the Crystal Network will proceed with its regular programming, but we will keep you updated as to the goings-on as we can. We're in the hands of the mages now. This is Audrick Cashmere, and you're listening to the Crystal Network. Good morning to you, fortune seekers, relic hunters, and those of you currently suffering from chronological whiplash. I am Morwin Brightseen, and you are listening to the Dungeon Delvers Report, broadcast to you by the grace of Lord Pernatius Kendrick. Before we look beyond our borders, a quick civic notice for the immediate area. The Watchtower Authority has requested I remind everyone that all attempts to enter the column of white light southwest of town are completely unauthorized, incredibly ill-advised, and have been gently but firmly rebuffed by whatever cosmic energy or magical phenomena is currently occurring inside of it. Save your boot leather, friends. This appears to be a closed door for now. Let's get on to the field reports. First up, Kronos Keep returns. We're starting with the aftermath of the glass towers at Kronos Keep. As the temporal gates have officially slid shut again for the year, the survivors are beginning to trickle back to the local appraisal markets, and they appear to be absolutely frantic. The towers are once again prohibited for anyone who is not a Class 7 chronomage, and are now phase-shifted out of our reality. Most of the haul coming out of the towers consists of minor historical curiosities. Coins that melt when exposed to tomorrow's date, self-winding pocket watches that only tick backward, and a few crates of ancient and remarkably well-preserved elven wine. However, one local scavenger has brought back an incredibly bizarre artifact, a perfectly smooth stone cube that will softly whisper the exact and correct menu options of the nearest tavern, precisely 3 hours before the tavern chef decides what they're going to cook. The real talk of the town, however, is a young low-tier hireling who got unimaginably lucky. He emerged carrying a brilliant starlight-infused short sword that appears to have instantly bonded itself to his bloodline. A seasoned cutpurse attempted to take said blade by force at the edge of the plateau, and the sword automatically manifested a localized gravity well, pinning the thief to the dirt before a single drop of blood could be spilled. The lucky hireling is reportedly unharmed, but remains in a deep state of shock at the local inn, staring blankly at his new weapon. Moving to the south, deep in the blistering expanse of the Salt Flats, we have an update on the sinking spires of Az-Kahar. The subterranean labyrinth is officially uncleared again. The shifting salt crust has apparently collapsed into the lower galleries, waking a colony of salt-gilded golems. These constructs don't just hit hard, they absorb the moisture right out of your skin upon contact. As a reminder, traditional water flasks are useless here, as the air itself drains them. Make sure to bring enchanted sealed decanters, or expect to turn into jerky strips within the first 48 hours. Up next, we're heading west for the jagged peaks of the Iron Crags, where we have a grim warning from the Rustbite Foundries. A devastating, abysmal failure for the Iron Shield Mercenary Company. The mercenaries attempted to clear the automated forge lines, but a sudden resurgence of oxidizing oozes has completely melted the Vanguard's plate armor in a matter of seconds. As a warning, the entire perimeter is heavily infested with the oxidizing oozes, so if your gear is made of iron or steel, you are essentially walking into a giant metal-eating furnace. I recommend you stick to leather, wood, or high-grade magic materials, if you value your defense. Traveling east to the endless forests of the verdant wilds, there is a newly discovered canopy village which has the logging guilds terrified. The upper boughs of this particular set of trees is considered uncleared. This is not your standard goblin camp. These branches are home to chameleon stalkers. They are large, predatory reptiles that can perfectly mimic the texture and color of the surrounding foliage, including the swaying movement of the leaves in the wind. Now, this is an opportunity. The local Woodcarvers Guild is offering 400 gold coins for an intact clutch of their eggs, as apparently the shells can be ground into an incredibly potent invisibility dust. Looking into the deep ocean trenches off the sunken coast, there is an underwater mausoleum that has recently been breached. The upper chambers are considered a partial success. A crew of specialized aquatic divers managed to crack the outer seals and recover several chests of pristine jade statuary. However, the lower burial vaults have remained completely submerged and are currently being guarded by a territorial pod of siren ghouls. The song doesn't just lure you in, it forces your lungs to try and breathe the salt water, so do not enter without a reliable water-breathing charm. Finally, an update on the sulphurous expanse to the far northern volcanic wastes. The Ash Grip Caldera has seen a massive spike in tectonic activity, shifting its status back to resurgent. A pack of magma weavers, those are the giant fire-spitting arachnids, have spun literal webs of molten glass across the only safe pathways leading down to the ruby veins. The master jewelers of the capital have pooled their coin and are offering a hefty 2,000 gold piece reward for the head of the broodmother, as her death should cause the glass webs to cool and hopefully shatter, reopening the mining routes. Well, that's the long and short of it for this morning. Watch your coordinates, keep your magic items close to your chest, and if you see a sword floating on its own, probably best to just walk away. This has been Morwin Brightseen, so clear a path, watch your flank, and make sure to listen here for updates on the Crystal Network.
Good morning, Moonhaven Falls. I must commend your collective efforts on last week's hurdles. Timmy informed me the local tavern actually ran out of ink because so many of you were drafting your solutions together. To the baker who tried to argue that a footprint counts as a tool because it helps measure the distance to the nearest pie, your logic is amusing, and your enthusiasm is both noted and appreciated. You are no longer looking merely at the things you can build, but the things that also build you. The answers to last week's riddles are as follows: a kettle or a teapot, a lock, ink, a footprint or a track, a loom shuttle, a mirror or still water, and a riddle or a story. This week we look to the elements, the forces that shape the valley, from the heights of Bahamut's Plateau to the rushing waters of the Moonhaven Falls. I have set for you 7 new markers on your path. Please approach them with a steady mind. And remember, the simplest answer is often the one you're standing on. So, let us begin. I am born deep in the dark of the world, hidden away in a coat of stone. I am dug out with sweat, shattered with iron, and melted in the forge. I can be a crown for a king, or a shoe for a horse. What am I? The first of 7 elements containing 7 truths. Please take your time, stack your thoughts neatly, present your parchments to Timmy before the weekend rush, and let us see if the enthusiasm of the valley can match the intellectual prowess of the plateau this week. Until next week, Moonhaven, keep those minds burning bright, for ignorance is the true darkness.
Ladies and gentlemen, I interrupt our regularly scheduled programming with an urgent update from the Crystal Network. If you are listening from the town center square, you have likely just felt the ground shudder. Please, do not panic. We have just received word from the front lines that Alara Meadowlight's journeyman apprentices have successfully powered up Moonhaven's primary town wards, and, in a brilliant display of forward thinking, and frankly a massive relief to the local healers, one of the senior apprentices managed to weave a localized, completely opaque barrier into the ward's outer layer. It has completely blocked out the glare from Miller Fields, and yes, if you are outside, the southern sky now looks like it has been completely blanketed by a wall of solid obsidian that is entirely intentional to cut down on the accidental blindings. If you see that journeyman apprentice, please, buy them a drink in the tavern later because they have saved a lot of eyes today. As for the incursion itself, the air pressure is growing unbearable. The hum of magic is rattling my teeth, even here in the studio, but thankfully that white light has stopped expanding. Experts, Gary, via a very, very hurried sending spell, believes that whatever is forcing its way through has finally reached the peak of its power. The stage is set, the wards are currently active and holding, and now we need to wait to see what the universe is about to drop on our doorstep. We are returning you now to your scheduled broadcast, but please keep an ear on the Crystal Radio here. The moment the snooze breaks, you'll hear it here first. Stay safe, Moonhaven. This is Audrick Cashmere with the Crystal Network. Welcome to you, mighty empresses and jade guardians. A warm smile to the attendants and the runners. A tip of the hat to the hawkers, the entertainers, and the citizens of all walks of life here in the Lost Realms. Welcome back to Crossroads Chronicles. I am your host, Audrick Cashmere. Now, as we shake off the final damp memories of the Great Flood, the town's social calendar is absolutely exploding. People want to gather, they want to celebrate, and, most importantly, they want to forget about sandbags. So, if you are looking to throw a gathering that your neighbors will be whispering about until next winter, you have likely already heard of our guest tonight. Hailing from the monochromatic depths of the Shadowfell, but bringing a shockingly vibrant burst of energy to our valley, please welcome the coordinator of Shadow Sheen Soirees, Estelle!
Oh, Audrick, hi! Thank you so much for having me. Oh, your studio is just darling. It's a little sun bleached, but we could totally fix that with just some lovely blood red streamers.
Well, thank you, Estelle. Now, I have to be honest. When most citizens of Moonhaven Falls think of Shadar-Kai, the Shadow Elves, they picture grim warriors sworn into service of the Raven Queen, brooding in dark citadels, obsessed with death and sorrow, and you don't fit that description at all.
Oh, I know. Everyone expects me to be all, woe is me. Existence is a void. But honestly, the Shadowfell is just so boringly serious. I moved here to the material plane because I wanted to see the colors. And do you know who appreciates color and joy more than anyone? Toddlers. I adore children's birthday parties. Oh, the cake, the pin, the tail, and the manticore. It's just pure, unadulterated life.
Now that is certainly a unique pivot, but I imagine adjusting to local taste took some time. After all, our culture here under the Dragonspine is a little different than the Shadowfell.
Oh, you have no idea, Audrick. The culture shock was very, very real. When I first set up shop, I brought just crates and crates of what I thought were standard celebration supplies. You know, spiderweb garlands, shadow widow confetti, actual taxidermy giant arachnids to hang over the buffet. Honestly, I thought it was super festive, but apparently, local parents don't want their 6-year-olds crying into their frosting. The total lack of spider paraphernalia in your standard decor just threw me for a loop.
Yes, we do generally try to keep the giant spiders out of the pastries.
Well, yes, I know that now, but I had to learn it the hard way. But, you know, I have adapted, and I actually have a few local arachnid enthusiasts on my ledger who absolutely scream with excitement when I pull out vintage web weavings for their theme parties. It's all about finding your niche, you know.
Okay. Speaking of your specialized inventory from the Shadowfell, let's talk about the silence spells real briefly. They've been the topic of conversation up in the castle recently.
Ugh, don't remind me. My absolute favorite party trick. You ring them and boom, instant localized magical silence. Perfect for when the toddlers start hitting that sugar crash screaming phase, or if you just need like 15-20 seconds of peace to cut the ice cream cake.
Well, yes, but they've also caught the attention of Lord Kendrick, correct? He has officially issued a decree regarding them for the upcoming Night of Warding ceremony in a couple of months.
Yes, and that is super flattering, honestly. His lordship's decree states that my silence spells are being fully reserved for the Dark Morris dancers this year. Apparently, the mages think that if the dancers can completely suppress the sound of their own footsteps and bells during the ritual, especially in counterpoint to some of the other bells, it will utterly confuse and drive away malign spirits right back to the shadows where they belong, which, I mean, great. Love a safe town.
But there's a catch for the general public now, correct?
Yes, well... Lord Kendrick has in fact officially declared them a restricted magical item, so if you want to rent the silence spells for a private gathering now, you can't just sign the guest book, I'm afraid. You'll need to go up to the plateau and fill out a couple of scrolls of parchment and acquire a Class 4 acoustic suppression permit. It's from the town guard. It's a bit of a buzzkill for the spontaneous backyard mixer, but you know what? We can work with this. Let's make it happen.
I suppose we have Alara Vancroft to thank for enforcing that paperwork. Still, safety during the Night of Warding is paramount.
Oh, absolutely! And the Dark Morris dancers are going to look fabulous in the shadow silk sashes I'm tailoring for them. If we are going to banish malevolent entities, we are going to do it in style.
Now that is the spirit. Estelle, it sounds like Shadow Sheen Soirees has a very busy season ahead of them, permits and all. So, thank you for bringing a bit of sparkle to the darker corners of our little valley.
Oh, and thank you, Audrick. Please remember, everyone, if you need a clown who can literally teleport through the shadows to deliver balloon animals, my booking book is in fact currently open.
And that is a terrifying and delightful image to end on. That was Estelle, the proprietor of Shadow Sheen Soirees, and thank you so very much for coming on to the show today. Stay tuned, Moonhaven Falls. You are listening to the Crystal Network. Testing. Yeah, it's still doing it. Good afternoon, Moonhaven Falls. You're listening to the Crystal Network.
Welcome to the Magic Minute, everyone. If Audrick sounds a bit, festive today, you can thank the lower-level mages at the Academy. With the journeyman apprentices out on the ward working on reinforcing the town's structural wards, the underclassmen were given a free study day. Naturally, that turned into absolute anarchy. A group of first-year illusion majors managed to bypass the station's dampening fields and cast a localized minor illusion variant on Audrick. For the next hour, every time he uses a word starting with the letter T, his microphone substitutes a carnival noise. The town guard is also dealing with an influx of invisible steps that have been randomly removed from the boardwalks. Alara Vancroft has already tripped over 3 staircases that she didn't think were actually there, and she has promised the next apprentice caught casting without a license will be spending their next free day scrubbing the slime off the docks with a toothbrush.
That sounds like an excellent punishment to me. Moving on, our artifact of the day is a interesting piece of gold-plated dread known as the Ring of Bureaucratic Wizardry.
Oh, that item is legendary in academic legal circles. When the ring is activated, it projects an aura in a random radius, typically 1 to 4 miles. Within this zone, the weave itself becomes very heavily institutionalized. Any spellcaster attempting to manifest even a simple cantrip is suddenly forced to fill out complex 3-page magical waivers in triplicate, which must then be signed and approved by a third-party observer before the spell will form.
Now that sounds like the single greatest magic item ever forged. Can you imagine a dark wizard raising his staff to obliterate the square, only to be handed a quill and a clipboard by the cosmos? Excuse me, sir, did you file an environmental impact report for that cone of cold? No? In that case, the magic is denied. If we could permanently anchor that to the square, we would never have to worry about rogue spell modifications again.
As beautiful as that dream is, Audrick, the universe does sometimes demand physical action, and since our town guards are currently navigating those invisible apprentice staircases, let's discuss the laws of tactical movement. Specifically, the opportunity attack and the disengage action.
Right, okay. So, let's say that a grumpy bugbear corners me in an alley. If I realized I'm outmatched, and I shift to sprint away, he gets a free swing at my back, correct? An opportunity attack as our universe punishes cowardice?
It doesn't punish cowardice, Audrick. It punishes carelessness. The law states that if you use your movement to leave an enemy's reach, that is a 5-foot combat bubble which we discussed last week, they can use their reaction to strike at you. But this is the nuance. They only get that strike if you are moving away using your own feet, your own muscles, and your own will.
What do you mean, my own feet? If I'm moving, I'm moving.
Not necessarily. See, the weave explicitly ignores forced movement. If our resident dragon Ignis flies past and uses his massive wings to create a buffet of air that literally blows you 10 feet backward out of the bugbear's reach, the bugbear gets nothing. You did not expend your movement. You were a leaf on the wind. The universe considers you a passive object for that microsecond, so no opportunity attack can be triggered.
Fascinating. So you're saying if I get pushed, knocked over, or blasted away, I'm safe from the extra sword swing. But what if I have to run away on my own 2 feet? I don't exactly want to rely on a random dragon blowing me down the street.
Then you need to perform the disengage action. By focusing your entire 6-second interval on defensive posture and footwork, your movement for the rest of that turn does not provoke opportunity attacks from any creature that you leave behind.
Okay, well, I mean, that makes sense. If I spend my interval dodging, they can't catch me off guard. But what if the bugbear is invisible, huh? If he's hiding in the alley and I walk right past him and keep walking, does he still get to hit me?
If he is invisible, he absolutely does. If you are invisible, he does not. This is the grand loophole of the blind spot. The law explicitly dictates that a creature can only make an opportunity attack against an enemy that they can see. If you are heavily obscured by darkness, or the enemy is blinded, or even if you simply walk behind a solid wall as you leave their reach, their reaction is invalidated. They might know that you're there, but the weave requires a visual synchronization to snap that reaction into place.
Okay, so if I want to run away safely, I either need to dance away deliberately, get blasted away by a friend, or make sure the ugly brute blinks at exactly the right moment for me to get behind a wall. Does his invisibility drop if he uses an attack of opportunity?
If it's a standard invisibility spell, absolutely it does. The standard spell breaks the moment you cast or attack, regardless of when you do it. The greater invisibility spell ignores this, of course, but you probably guessed that already. Movement is very similar to a chess match, Audrick. You just have to know which squares are safe to step on. Well, watch your step on the boardwalks tonight, Moonhaven, and if you see a piece of blank paperwork floating in the air, I strongly recommend you don't sign it. This has been Selene Meadowlight with the Magic Minute.
Good evening, Moonhaven Falls. I don't know quite how to describe what we just witnessed. For those of you listening remotely, around 20 minutes ago, the sky above the Miller's Field, it didn't break or shatter or explode or anything so dramatic. The closest I can come was it was unzipped. 4 beings, very tall, crystalline, four-armed giants who appeared to be made of shimmering blue glass, stepped out of the air. They didn't even look at the guard, or Alara, or Gary. Instead, they moved with a terrifying mechanical efficiency, literally stitching the missing land back into the valley floor. I'm told by a very shaken Alara Vancroft that one of them looked directly at her, despite having no face to speak of, and sent a telepathic message that she says felt like a very polite, very hurried apology. She informed me that they were behind schedule and over capacity, and before she could ask a single question, they snapped the rift shut, turned into pillars of light themselves, and simply vanished. And where Farmer Miller's missing land used to be, well, it's all back, but there's a new town there now as well. A very makeshift, ramshackle wooden canvas town that's sitting in the middle of a field that looks like it's ready for the late fall harvest, even though it's been gone for more than half a year. And there's people, Moonhaven. Hundreds of them, possibly even 1,000. But they all look washed out, like they are watercolor paintings left in the rain. But they're alive, they're confused, and they are definitely not local. Stay tuned for more information as we get it. This is Audrick Cashmere with the Crystal Network. Thank you for tuning in, my appreciative, attentive audience, and listening to today's terrific tales. But this concludes our episode for the week. I do release a new episode every Tuesday morning at 5 a.m. Eastern. I hope you found this podcast to be quirky, unconventional, and imaginative. And if you did, I'd appreciate it if you'd take a quick moment to subscribe to the channel or follow the podcast, and a second one to rate it and share it with a friend or a community. It's a simple, easy action that lets the algorithm know you listen to and want to continue hearing these stories. Please keep in mind that I personally create, edit, record, and produce all of the content for the show, with the occasional guest appearance from my wife and children. So, if you'd like to buy any of us a cup of coffee or a bottle of lemonade once a month as encouragement to continue creating it, we would gratefully accept. Thank you to all of our supporters. My family and I genuinely appreciate all of you for showing your support by tuning in every week, and we'd like to thank you for continuing to do so. I look forward to seeing you in the comments, and I hope you tune in again next week.